Pace.
Pace.
No.
Hi, guys. Like it says, my name is Mark Speiker. When I worked for the Department of Corrections, I was an instructor there, and part of my training there said that you always want to provide your people you're talking to a reason why they should believe what you're talking about. So, give them your credentials and all that. So, my credentials are, I'm a sinner. So, I'm on the same path that all Christians are, trying to do the right thing, try to get to heaven in the end. So, this is supposed to be like my testimony. I don't have that aha moment or where, I fell down, was down on the ground, curled up in a corner in a ball somewhere, and God kicked me in the butt. That's been my entire life. So there's been moments of good, moments of bad. So as far back as I can remember, I've been following Jesus. I was raised Catholic. My parents took me to church every Sunday, if not Saturday night. If we went camping or went on vacation, whatever, church was planned into that. We weren't missing church. We hit every holiday, church holiday that is. In the Catholic Church, there's quite a few church holidays. So all of Holy Week, I was in church. I went to Catholic school. So every Friday we went to church, Catholic school. I also had Christian studies while we were, or Catholic studies while I was in school. I was an altar boy. I sang in the church choir, sang in the adult choir, sang in the children's choir. And I actually do remember having thoughts of joining the priesthood at the time. While in grade school and middle school, I was pretty much isolated from the secular schools. All my friends were at the Catholic school that I went to. Fridays during Lent, there was no meat. What I'm trying to say is, church was very much a focal point of my family at the time. I'm now, as I got out of school, got out of middle school, got into high school, was out there with everyone else, the real world, the secular world. But I did not party, I did not smoke, I did not drink. My dad was a cop. So I was going to get caught. I lived in a small town, so I wasn't worried about going to jail or getting a ticket or anything. I was worried about getting my butt whooped by my dad when the other cops called, saying, your son was doing this. That happened a couple times. Then I went to college. I'm old enough that when I went to college, the drinking age was 19. So I was old for my class. So my freshman year of college, I was 19. So I could just walk into a bar, get whatever I want. As soon as I hit college, no parents around, I started drinking. Started chewing, started partying. I went to a college which was considered a party college. It was Monday through Thursday. Fridays were off. Except for, there was a couple classes that you had to take on Fridays. But I tried to avoid those. I can honestly say that I missed more classes than I went to. I don't know how I made it through. I passed. I graduated. Then I joined the military. I just didn't want to go to school anymore. So I actually graduated from college and went to the military and got sent to lovely Furlong, California. You guys probably not old enough, maybe some adults. Furlong, California used to have a lot more military there. It was special weapons. So that's where I got sent to. Met my first wife, had my first child there, and then got sent overseas. And going to a different country, being in the military, church wasn't.
What country did you
I got sent to Belgium. So, church wasn't something that, it was there in the military, but you went to church on your time off, but in the military, my time off was the time that I was going to spend with my wife and kids or sleep. So, church wasn't there. Did baptize my son in the Catholic Church. My second son was born over there. Baptized him over there, but I think that's probably 2 or 3 times I went to church in 3 years. Was do the obligatory baptisms of my 2 children, of my first 2 sons. Then my marriage fell apart after I got out of the military. Came back to California and joined the Department of Corrections. Marriage fell apart, and hey, I went back to church. Wasn't real active in the church, but I went to church. I prayed. My life started turning around. My kids were still young, but I met someone who had kids. She was involved in the church that we started going to, so church became another focal point of our life. Things started getting good, so when things are going good, what happens? Fall back in your old things, fall back in your old ways. Eventually that marriage fell apart. I wasn't going to church, wasn't doing the family stuff. That marriage should have never happened, but it did. But that's another story that I'm not going to tell you guys. So, my kids were older now. We sort of were estranged, which I wasn't seeing my kids. They weren't coming around. I wasn't able to see them much. But then I started going back to church, becoming a better person. Kids came back into my life. And then I met Mandy, my wife. She's not here tonight. Wasn't even trying to have a relationship, nothing. God put us together. We just went for a walk one night and it was like, this is what it was meant to be. We started praying together every day, reading the Bible, going to church. Church became a focal point of our life. So all these negative and bad issues in my life were basically because of my choices. I chose not to go to church. I chose not to be a good father to my kids. I chose to go to the bars. I chose to do what I was going to do. So it all falls back onto God has a plan for us, correct? But we have what's called free will. Do we always follow His plan? Do we make the right choices? Last week and this week have been real rough for me at work, having a lot of issues. There was a couple times where I was called Jen and Dan to say, hey, I got all this going on. I can't do this. I don't even have time to sit down and put my thoughts. That's why I'm gonna see this tape or video and be upset with myself because I used to be an instructor. I should be able to put together a presentation and not be stuttering. But it is what it is. This wasn't even put together last night. So I had to make that choice. Do I want to be an example to you guys, to my kids, to my wife, to the church that I want to make the right choice? Sometimes it's a hard choice. The easy choice would have been just to make that phone call and say, hey, I got something going on. I can't do this. Nobody said being a Christian was easy. Probably being a Christian is hard. Got those hard choices that we got to make. Trying to be a Christian is hard, if not practical, nearly impossible. We can let our lives overcome what God has made possible by making the wrong choices. What does it mean to stumble as a Christian? Sin.
To be deceitful.
Be deceitful.
Mess up.
So, in James chapter 13, verse 2, for we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in the word, he is perfect. Is anyone perfect? Are there any perfect humans? Was there a perfect human? Who was the one perfect human?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ, the only perfect human. Who's on social media? Who watches quite a bit of TV? You guys ever get sucked up or caught into those perfect lives that are out there in social media? What are some examples of that?
Maybe like living in like a perfect place and just doing what you want every day. Like some people in the movies display it as a perfect life.
So are there people out there that try to influence us to the perfect human life? You may watch the Kardashians. I can honestly say I never watched that episode. But there's other stuff out there, right? You flip through the channels, you can find all these.
Hallmark, yeah.
The what?
Hallmark.
Now, I'm going to go to the veil of Hallmark. Okay. There's always issues in Hallmark, and they got to make the right choices. It's pretty. Hallmark has. So they got choice. There's a choice they got to make at the beginning, and then they go on a trip or a vacation or some other place, and then they're struggling with that choice they got to make. Then they meet someone from the past that they had made a choice about, and then things start going good, and then they make a bad choice, and then it goes bad, and then they make the right choice, and then it's done. All in an hour.
Well, to every single one.
It's the same.
Yeah.
If you ever watch, you watch Hallmark games. I watch my mom.
I watch from my mom.
Mandy watches Hallmark all the time, and I get confused because it's the same actors and actresses. So sometimes you get caught up in the wrong story. Like I thought they were pressing grapes a couple minutes ago, but it's a different one. That's the one where the water thing burns up, or the fire comes down, and
Yeah.
was it autumn harvest or something like that.
Something like that.
We as Christians, we're not always going to make the right choices. But are we going to choose to walk a Christian path during our life or go for the perfect earthly life? What's easier?
Earthly life.
Which one?
Earthly life, the perfect earthly life.
What could be the easier choice? Do you have pressures at school?
Yeah.
Get sucked into the perfect clique at school, your friendships. So, could you, that group be picking on someone else and you just go along with it because you don't want to ruin that friendship? What about as an adult? Do you think it's any different as an adult? No, it's not. But Jesus knew that we all were going to struggle and stumble. During the Last Supper, in Matthew 26:31, then Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will scatter. But Peter replied, even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble. Then what did Peter do? Did Peter stumble? How many times did he deny that he knew Christ? 3 times. Why?
He denied it.
Because what?
He denied it.
He denied it, but why did he deny him?
Because he didn't want people
God killed him.
killed.
Well, he didn't want possibly to be killed. He didn't want to be embarrassed, possibly. He didn't want to be known that he associated with Jesus. Because who was winning at that time? Was Jesus. The other side was winning, right? Was evil winning? Since God knows that we're going to stumble and sin, does that mean that we get a free pass about sinning and just going on and hoping that at the end of your life, the gates are going to be open? You just could say that one forgiveness and I'm sorry, and God's going to open the gates. So how do we as Christians overcome and atone our sins? How can you overcome your sins?
By praying to not do them.
Praying not to do them. How about acknowledging that we did wrong? Go ahead.
Working hard
Working hard.
to help people.
So acknowledging their sins. Stop doing the sin. Ask for forgiveness and forgive others.
Maybe confessing to God that you sinned.
Yep. So is there a path that you guys are on? Are you guys on a path? Do you know what that path is? Is there a light at the end of that path that you're striving to get to? So Isaiah 9:2 says, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shined. Who is our light? Jesus. In John 11:9-10, if anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks at night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. So on that path, anyone ever been in a tunnel? Anyone ever been in a long tunnel?
Subway case.
What's that?
The subway case.
And you're just driving along or you're walking along and like, am I doing right? Am I doing right? And you see that light and everything's all good. Are there other lights that we can use to lighten our path or to light our path that make it easier to get to our final light?
Yeah.
What might they be?
Word.
Yeah.
The Word,
Prayer.
prayer,
Worship.
worship. How about you guys around each other? Youth group, can you be uplifted? Can they help you?